Hi, I'm Dr. Amy, and we're going to talk a little bit about nutrition and a little bit specifically about hay. I get a lot of questions about, gee, what's the best kind of hay I should feed my horse? And is this hay good or is this hay bad or what do I use? There are lots of hays out there, and hays are primarily grass forage materials that contain a lot of nutrients. There are some differences in types of hays and in even in species of types of hays, if we want to get that specific. But we're probably not going to get that close to that kind of science. What we'd like to talk about a little bit more completely, though, is what your horse needs in terms of hay. When the horse evolved and became the creature that it is now, it evolved eating hay and plant materials that it then digested and ferments in the area of the gut called the cecum. The cecum is also referred to as the hindgut, and this is where a lot of the volatile fatty acids are produced. What we mean by volatile fatty acids are proteins. This is what makes up the inside of the cell of the horse. The outside of the cell is made up of fats, and that comes primarily from fat sources. Most hays are not very high in fat, but some of the meals that we see carry more of the fats in them. Those come from seeds. What we see a lot of in hays too is a confusion between a grass hay and a legume hay. And most horse owners are familiar with alfalfa, maybe not referring to it as a legume, but that's what it is. Legumes are not grasses. They are plants that fix nitrogen deep in the soil around their roots. Legumes include soybeans, alfalfa, clover, peanut, to name a few. There are a couple others out there. These kinds of hays are leafy. They have a separate leaf besides the grass leaf. They have a tendency to carry nitrates and nitrogen products that are not the correct type of protein producers that the horse has evolved to use from their grass. So if we look at the horse from an evolutionary design, from the way that the gut uses grass, we see that the grass hays, such as Timothy, Orchard, Bermuda, those kinds of grass hays are more specific for the gut. Now those aren't all of the grass hays you can find out there, but those are some of the more common ones you're going to find at your feed store. So what we want to do is make sure that the horse that we're feeding is getting enough grass or hay in the form of grass hay to be sizable enough for his digestive tract. 70 feet of intestine plus that large cecum to fill is a lot of space, and it can't be filled by 2 meals a day. So we need to make sure we give our horses up to 2% of their body weight every day in both grass that they graze and hay that we feed them. Horses that have many, many acres to graze on are able to fulfill this need, but horses with only an acre or two are limited in what they can browse and are dependent upon us to pick the right kind of grass so that their cecum can then produce the right kind of proteins from that grass and get the right kinds of nutrients from it. If we're choosing legumes, we can inhibit their metabolism, we can slow down their ability to digest food, we can actually make it more difficult for them to process their foods in general. But what has been written about in the past in terms of legumes is a lot of the information on proteins that are in it and the calcium content. However, what we do find is legumes also draw a lot of water into the gut. This makes it easy to pass through the GI tract, but it also depletes water from the other parts of the horse's system. But more importantly, there are estrogens and nitrates in that legume hay that deplete and depress metabolism in the animal So it can actually slow down the tract of the animal. It can slow down their ability to metabolize. It can make their temperatures lower than they should be. I have a feeling that I might be making a few enemies by making these comments, because there are lots of horse people out there who feed alfalfa hays. I would be one of them in the past. However, in the last probably 6 years, with some of the research and some of the work that we've been doing in looking at how these hays work in the animal, we've discovered that those legume hays don't really give those animals the boost that we think that they are giving. They aren't the best choice for protein source, and they can lead to some depression in the metabolism. So we try to encourage our owners to go with hays that are grass hays. If they're afraid of some of the lignins that we find in Bermuda grass hay that can be difficult to digest, we push them toward some of the other grass hays like Timothy or orchard grass. The interesting thing about the lignin in grass hay, such as Bermuda grass or coastal grass hays, is that horses who have normal metabolisms have no problem with digesting and passing the extra fiber through their GI tract. Their acetylcholine neurotransmitter is not depleted, but horses who have a depleted metabolism will have depleted neurotransmitters that don't allow those grass hays to be pushed on through the GI tract. These are the animals that are much more likely to have impaction colics. That also can include sand colics. So in an effort to keep these animals from becoming slowed down, from having a slowed metabolism, rather than feed a legume hay, we really and truly encourage always feeding the grass hays so that we don't add to anything else that can be slowing and lowering that metabolism. How can you tell? One way to determine if your horse has a lowered metabolism is to check their temperature. Just like us, their basal temperature in the morning, before they've eaten, before they've been up and moving around much, that base temperature lets us know what their metabolism really and truly is. How warm is their cecum? How much heat is it generating? So take their temperature in the morning before you feed them. Anything below 100 degrees in a horse is actually a lowered temperature or a low metabolism. So the metabolic rate of the horse, of each cell of the horse, and of what the cecum in the horse is doing is slowed down. So that's already a clue. If you want more information on how to determine these things in your horse, please visit our website. And you can also contact us for consultations if you have serious considerations about the metabolism of your animal. In conclusion, I'd like to just reiterate that any of the grass hays, because horses evolved eating grass, are good sources for these animals. And 2% of their body weight every day in grass and hay is really important for harmonizing your horse's health.